tonight. Infrastructure or bust.
The Senate is going to stay here until we finish our work.
Negotiators on both sides of the aisle strap in to get the deal done. This amid new jobless numbers as states begin to end unemployment benefits. Plus retaliation. Responding to rocket attacks, Israel launches rare airstrikes into Lebanon. And as kids head back to school, the states grapple with how to handle rising infections.
I am reinstating the statewide public health emergency as of today.
All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. As the week winds down, the clock is ticking for a Senate vote on infrastructure. Good evening, I'm Jenna Browder. After about a week of debate on a bipartisan infrastructure bill, the end is near. The Senate is expected to take a final vote in just a few days. The $1.2 trillion deal will likely pass with major support from both parties. For more on where things stand, we're joined by Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson. Abigail, when might we see a final vote on this bill?
Well, Jenna, there is a slight possibility that we see the final vote tonight if negotiators are able to convince both sides to expedite the process. But it's more likely the final vote will be Saturday or early next week. And it is very, very likely that this bill is going to pass. And because of that, even the people who are against it in the Republican Party are going to be willing to waive some of that debate time to get it through, because the Senate is supposed to adjourn for August recess on Monday, and they know that they aren't going to be able to do that and take their recess until they also pass the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill that only needs a simple majority and is only expected to be supported by Democrat senators. Here's what Minority Leader Chuck Schumer had to say about both bills on the floor today.
Our goal is to pass both a bipartisan infrastructure bill and a budget resolution during this work period, and we will stay here to get both done.
And I think I just said minority leader, my mistake, majority leader, excuse me. Now, Republicans, as I said, are not expected to support the reconciliation bill. It only needs the support of every Democrat. And Republicans say that this is just a reckless spending spree. And because of that, they say that whatever this does to our debt crisis is solely the Democrats' responsibility. Take a look.
Well, let me make something perfectly clear. If they don't need or want our input, they won't get our help. They won't get our help with the debt limit increase that these reckless plans will require.
Now, the senators are eager to get out of town, so we're going to see them working through the weekend until they pass both of these bills and can move on. Jenna?
And joining me now is Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. Senator, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. So we want to talk about a lot with you this evening, but let's start with infrastructure. How confident are you this bipartisan infrastructure bill will make it across the finish line in both the Senate and the House?
Jenna, I'm very optimistic. I'm certain it'll make it out of the Senate within the next couple of days. The bipartisan core group of 10 senators that have worked tirelessly on this for months have gotten us this far because of their close relationships, because they've drafted a strong bill, and frankly, because President Biden and the Biden administration has negotiated regularly and in good faith with them. I think we're going to get more than 60 votes to get this bill out of the Senate. I'm hopeful that the House will take it up quickly and get it to the president's desk. But just to remind folks who are watching, this will fund more than $500 billion in new infrastructure, whether that's roads or rail, whether that's ports, airports. It'll help our country move more efficiently, more quickly. But it's also going to put hundreds of thousands of people to work, about 650,000 more jobs a year in high-skilled, high-paying jobs. And it'll help deliver on the infrastructure of the 21st century, things like broadband. In far too many rural communities in our country, people still don't have the ability to work remotely or to connect with a doctor or for their students, their kids to take school over the internet. And that's something we've all come to appreciate during the pandemic, that we need to invest more in broadband. So I'm very hopeful this bill is going to get to the president's desk in the next couple of weeks.
It's something that lawmakers have tried to do for a long, long time. And so this is certainly a big moment. Congress and the Biden administration recently made a big change to the child tax credit. Do you think this will become permanent, Senator?
You know, I don't know. My hope is that over the next couple of years, the dramatic impact this is already having on child poverty all over our country, in rural communities and urban communities, will persuade policymakers from both parties that it is worth making permanent. We have far too many children in the United States who grew up in poverty, who grew up hungry, who grew up having challenges learning in school. And this will make a dramatic and direct difference in the quality of their lives and in the quality of our country, in that we will be committed to fighting child poverty.
All of this brings up the issue of cost and national debt. Under this administration and with Democrats controlling Congress, Senator, we're seeing a big push for government handouts and big spending like we've never seen before. Does the cost of programs like these concern you when you also think about the growing national debt?
Yes, the national debt concerns me. I never thought we'd vote for $4 trillion so far in pandemic relief. But I also recognize that we've been able to avoid a second Great Depression, a collapse of our economy, because we've made significant investments in the average American family, in schools, in governments, and healthcare centers. Look, we've had more than 35 million Americans infected with COVID-19. More than 600,000 Americans have lost their lives, and millions of businesses have shut down. Just on Monday, I had the small business administrator visiting in my home state of Delaware. We went and visited several different small businesses that are open today and employing people today because of the funding that we distributed through the SBA to tens of thousands of small businesses in my state of Delaware.
I also want to talk to you about a piece of legislation that you are behind. You've introduced a bipartisan bill aimed at expanding national service by giving those who volunteer a pathway to pay for college or student debt. Where does this bill stand right now?
Well, Jenna, the Bipartisan CORE Act, which I've introduced now in 2 Congresses and has very broad bipartisan support, was a big piece of what encouraged President Biden to put money in the American Rescue Plan that we passed back in January. It added $1 billion to AmeriCorps, doubling it in size. For this year, there's 75,000 Americans, literally in every state in the country, serving as members of AmeriCorps, for young people who dedicate a year of their lives to serving our country here within our own borders and helping with disaster response, with mentoring and tutoring children, with working with veterans groups, or working with community-based groups that are combating opioid addiction. They've had a dramatic and positive impact. During the COVID pandemic, AmeriCorps programs all over the country have partnered with faith communities to deliver badly needed assistance, whether it's through food pantries or clothes banks, whether it's visiting shut-in seniors who needed help accessing health care, or working on public health issues. AmeriCorps members have helped bring our country together and given young people an opportunity to earn their way to college through national service. So I'm hopeful it will continue to be expanded in bills that we'll be taking up later this year. But I'm grateful for the support of senators like Roger Wicker of Mississippi, who was my lead co-sponsor of the CORE.
And as the Delta variant continues to spread, we're hearing a lot of talk about vaccine mandates, be it on college campuses, private businesses, or even now in the military. Senator, what do you think? Should there be vaccine mandates?
Well, in general, the American people have always treasured individual liberty and the opportunity to choose for ourselves what path we would take in terms of things like individual choices about health care. I happen to have 3 kids in college, and one of them is going back to his senior year, where he's going to be able to fully participate in classes on campus, in no small part because the university is requiring every single student to be vaccinated. I think I would have answered that question differently 6 months ago. Today, I am much more open to vaccine mandates for people to travel on airplanes or trains, for people to work if a company chooses that, or if a university chooses that. Because frankly, right now we're having a wave of infections really solely among the unvaccinated. 97% of the Americans who are hospitalized for COVID right now are unvaccinated. The encouraging thing, Jenna, is that we're seeing a significant uptick in folks who are becoming more confident in the safety and the efficacy of this vaccine and are choosing to get vaccinated. I would so much rather see this happen by choice and persuasion than through a mandate. But as the number of cases and the number of people in hospitals keeps going up and up, I can understand how some businesses, some governments, and some universities and other nonprofits are beginning to require vaccination.
And to your point, FDA could soon approve the Pfizer, so that might make a difference as well. Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jenna.
To the economy, unemployment numbers are down. That's according to today's Labor Department report. Last week, 385,000 Americans applied for unemployment benefits. That's down about 14,000 from the week before. Still, jobless claims are historically high. Prior to the pandemic, the U.S. was averaging about 220,000 applications each week. Tomorrow, the Labor Department will release its July jobs report. The Dow Jones predicts 788,000 jobs were added last month. And here with us now is Mark Hamrick, Senior Economic Analyst and Washington Bureau Chief at Bankrate. Mark, welcome back. We'll get to that coming jobs report here in just a minute. But first, let's talk about these latest unemployment numbers. What are the biggest headlines coming out of it, do you think?
Well, one of the most extraordinary parts of this report, Jenna, is that so-called continuing claims. And this is the total number of people receiving unemployment assistance through those traditional state programs or 53 different governments. That number moved to a new pandemic low. We still have an extraordinarily high number of Americans who are on some form of unemployment assistance, but that includes the two federal pandemic programs, which, as we know, will expire about a month from now. We're making some progress here with respect to new unemployment claims, but we've also been bouncing around this benchmark 400,000 level for a couple of months now, which really speaks to what I would say is the heavy lifting that's required to heal this economy more broadly.
You know, as many places reinstate mask mandates and weigh what's next, do you anticipate that having an impact on unemployment?
It will, I think, perhaps, if anything, just help consumers to be more confident that, along with vaccinations, that they are essentially free to continue with their mobility. But I think the key question is whether the vaccinations will continue to be effective against this variant or any others that might yet surface. And the latter part of that is extremely worrisome if indeed we were to see a new variant that would not be inoculatable.
Mark, let's talk about the jobs in July. Yesterday, ADP released their look at private sector positions. They had predicted 653,000 new jobs added, but that fell way short, coming in at only 330,000. What do you make of that? Extremely worrisome. If that indeed were to be reflected or mirrored in the forthcoming report from the U.S. Labor Department, that would be concerning, because so far this year we've had an average of 543,000 jobs added a month. In the previous month, we added 850,000. So then the question would be, what's up or what's down in this case? And would it be a sign of something more ominous in the months to come with respect to a lack of further jobs creation or restoration? And what are you anticipating in tomorrow's Labor Department jobs report? So the consensus really is that we'll get something very close to that June number, on the order of 800,000. That's the consensus among economists. And it is expected that the unemployment rate, which is perhaps the most difficult part of all this to predict, will go down a couple of tenths of 1% below the 5.9% that we had for June. I think the main thing is, what's the outlook for the second half of the year, whether we can get people working, whether employers can find those workers with so many positions open. All right, Mark Hamrick with Bankrate, thank you. Good to see you. Thanks so much. Airstrikes in the Middle East, the latest on the escalating tension between Israel and militants in Lebanon.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN News Watch. Thanks for joining us. Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN News Watch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back. Energy terrorism. That's what some experts are calling suspicious activity in the vicinity of the Strait of Hormuz, the main shipping route for oil from the Middle East. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke joins us now to explain. Caitlin, the so-called terrorist in this situation is Iran. What is the regime doing to raise concerns?
Jenna, in just the last week, we've had a deadly drone attack on a commercial ship attributed to Iran, an attempted hijacking that Iran is believed to be responsible for, and suspicious communications coming from several other ships in the same region.
It's a power play. They don't really fear retaliation from the United States. And what they're saying to us, quite bluntly, is that they are now very comfortable disrupting shipping through the strait.
While it's largely still unclear what's actually going on, any hostile activity in the region is alarming. The Strait of Hormuz connects the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. It's a crucial shipping lane for oil coming out of the Middle East, and Iran no longer needs it, recently launching their own oil export terminal at Jask port.
Jask is below the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian regime invested a huge amount of resources and money in that port so that they can export oil from outside of the strait, from the Gulf of Oman rather than the Persian Gulf. And so that gives them the flexibility to threaten the strait.
Victoria Coates, a deputy national security advisor under the Trump administration, says it's also important to factor in the hardline new government that's now in power in Tehran.
They are showing everyone in the region there's a new sheriff in town. They want to try to make clear to the world that they are unbowed by the U.S. sanctions.
Continued attacks on ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz could result in global oil shortages and higher prices. But the U.S. is in a unique position.
The Iranians don't need the strait, and the reality is that we don't either. Thanks to the American energy renaissance that we've seen over really the last decade, but particularly over the last 5 years, the United States is now one of the big three energy producers in the world, along with Saudi Arabia and Russia.
There is concern, however, that the Biden administration's energy policies are curbing domestic energy production.
On the one hand, they're going to cancel the Keystone pipeline. On the other hand, they're going to greenlight the Nord Stream 2 pipeline into Germany. So they're constricting flows of energy through the United States by canceling Keystone, but allowing the flow of fossil fuels into Europe.
Meanwhile, the U.S. and its allies have not yet responded to Iran's provocations. The State Department says it's looking into what's going on in the Gulf of Oman. Spokesman Ned Price calling it a disturbing pattern of belligerent behavior.
All right, Caitlin Burke, National Security Correspondent, thank you. Well, in a rare move, Israel launched airstrikes in Lebanon today. The attack comes a day after militants launched missiles over the border from Lebanon into Israel. The Israeli army says they were targeting the launch site of that attack. Here in the U.S., the administration is standing by Israel's right to strike back. And we'll be right back after this.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Happily, Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Saturday night at 6 on the CBN News Channel. Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
A staggering number, more than 200 million COVID-19 cases around the globe. And with mandatory vaccinations and new mask mandates rolling out, some leaders here at home are asking why. CBN News correspondent Brody Carter has the latest.
Rumblings of mandatory vaccinations for the military, those are coming to light. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin expected to announce all active duty armed forces submit to mandatory vaccinations. In all, 1.3 million service members would be required to get the shot. This as the world tries to outrun the virus. Children under the age of 12, ineligible for the vaccine, now on the front lines in dire need of protection. Another school year overshadowed by COVID and questions about how to deal with it.
It makes absolutely no sense to unmask children who are not eligible for the vaccine.
Heated school board meetings in Illinois to Florida and Texas, where White House officials say 1/3 of all U.S. COVID cases and hospitalizations were reported in the past week.
I am reinstating the statewide public health emergency as of today.
In Marion, Arkansas, more than 700 students are reportedly quarantined due to COVID, not even halfway through the second week of school. And the governor publicly regretting a bill he'd signed earlier this year banning masks in schools.
In hindsight, I wish that had not become law. We do have a vulnerable group that is not eligible for the vaccine.
But not all Southern governors agree.
Mandates like these cities are doing, they're not going to work. They're not going to enforce them. If you read the mandates, they have all these different exemptions, like if you're eating, drinking, religious objections, and other things. And I'm telling people, talk to your doctor, talk to your local pharmacist, and make a good decision for yourself. That's what America's about.
Florida Governor DeSantis defying President Biden's call out to states with low vaccination numbers to either help or get out of the way.
In terms of shutting down, we're not shutting down. We're going to have schools open. We're protecting every Floridian's job in this state.
Here's a look at the numbers. 4.2 million children have tested positive for COVID since the pandemic began. Nearly 72,000 catching COVID just last week. And as the world finds it seemingly impossible to outrun the virus, required vaccinations like New York City's. It may be the first in a long line of mandates to come. The White House explicitly asking American businesses to support vaccination requirements.
Businesses know vaccinations are a way to keep their workers and customers safe and to keep their doors open.
The World Health Organization now calling for a moratorium on booster shots, this until the end of September, all in an effort to support all countries inoculate 10% of their populations. 165 million people, or 50% of the United States, is fully vaccinated. I'm Brody Carter, CBN News.
Thank you, Brody. And still ahead, one woman's treasure turned to trash. The high cost lost and found.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Finally tonight, have you ever thrown something away only to later realize that you needed it? Well, for one Ohio woman, the cost of cleaning almost became more than you can imagine. So she and her grandkids were cleaning up the house when one of the kids innocently tossed out an important envelope. Important because it contained $25,000. After a call to the local waste collection agency, a crew immediately got to searching.
Couldn't believe it. It took 10 minutes, and I seen it. I said, man, that looks just like that. Pulled it off, opened it up, and there was the package inside with the money in it. They were so happy, they were tearing up.
It took 10 trash collectors to search for the cash, but hard work paid off, and the treasure that became trash was reunited with its owner. And we will leave it on that note this evening. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good night.